So we have been talking about this tangent ratio, what it means, and how we can use it to find a missing angle in a right triangle if we're given two sides. We can also use the tangent ratio to find missing sides if we're given one of the acute angles and one of the sides. And all this is about is setting up an equation and then solving it using your skills in algebra. So if you look at this first example, we're asked to find the length of AB. This length here. Oh, this. Okay. We can't use Pythagoras. We can't use the sum of the angles is 180 degrees because we're asked to find the missing side. So we're going to have to use trig. We're going to have to use tan. Okay. So remember, it's your equation format is always going to look like whatever trig ratio we're using. Right now, we're only using tan. Then the angle. And in the previous questions, this was the unknown. Equals one side in the right triangle over another side in the right triangle. That's how trig equations are always set up. You will know the trig to use, and then you will know two of these three. And then you just use equation solving to find the missing one. So in this one, well, the only trig ratio we know right now is tan. What's the acute angle we're given? Like we know it. What is it? 30 degrees. And remember, the tan is always what side over what side? Opposite over adjacent. So in this example, what is the opposite to 30 degrees? This here? AB, right? Which is what we're trying to find. So that's the unknown. Over the adjacent side. What's the adjacent side? What's that? I can't hear. Okay, yes. We've got an equation. Well, how do we solve an equation? We got to get the variable by itself. We got to get AB by itself. There's a divide 10 here right now. How do I get AB by itself? Multiply by 10. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So therefore, to find AB, I'm going to, and this is where I use my calculator, do 10 times the tan of 30 degrees. And then round my answer, it says to the nearest tenth, so that's one decimal place. So depending on the type of calculator you have, if you've got one like mine, you don't even have to punch the times key. All you have to do is go 10 tan 30. And it gives it to you. What do we get? Rounded to the nearest tenth properly. 5.8. 5.8 centimeters. That's it. The next example, what happens if the unknown's on the bottom? So in this one, we're given the acute angle 20 degrees, we're given this side, and we are asked to find this side. So I'm going to set up my trig equation. It's tan of the angle, which in this case is the angle 20 degrees, equals the opposite side, which in this example is 3.5, over the adjacent side, which in this example is EF, what we're trying to find. And now it's a matter of solving that equation. This one I have to do a couple of steps. First of all, I want to get rid of the fraction. What must I multiply this by to get rid of the fraction? EF. Which means I have to multiply this side by EF. So now I am left with EF times the tan of 20 degrees equals 3.5. Haven't quite got EF by itself yet. There's a times tan 20. How do I get rid of that? Divide tan 20. Which means I got to do the same thing to the other side. Divide tan 20 degrees. So in this case, I'm ready to use my calculator now because I got EF by itself. I do 3.5 divide tan 20 and round it correctly to 1 decimal place. 9.6 centimeters. Another way you could remember it, notice when the unknown side's up top, we multiply to get the answer, right? When the unknown side is on the bottom, we divide it to get the answer. It's another way you can think of it. Okay. Big thing with trig, we use it to solve problems, right? I mean, GPS is based on trigonometry when you're finding locations. So we've got a searchlight beam that shines straight up onto a cloud at a horizontal distance of 250 meters from the searchlight. The angle between the ground and the line of sight looking up to the cloud is 75 degrees. I'm asked to find the height of the cloud. So which one of these three is 250 meters? At a horizontal distance at 250 meters from the searchlight, which one of these three is 250? The horizontal one. And which one am I trying to find? The vertical one. Well, I don't have capital letters on the end, so I'm just going to use a lowercase letter. I'm just going to call it H for height. Okay. So now that I've got all my information labeled correctly, I can set up my trig equation. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Yamna? Tan 75 degrees. Perfect. Well done. That's it. And now we solve. And how do we get H by itself? Times 250 times 250. So therefore 250 times the tan of 75 degrees is going to be our unknown height that we're looking for. And we're asked to round our answer to the nearest meter. So this is where you pull out your calculator, 250 times or just tan 75. And you should get 933 meters to the nearest meter. That's it. So trig really is about solving three types of an equation, three types of equations. One, where the angle was unknown and we had to use the inverse. Two, where one of the sides was unknown and the side was on top of the equation. Three, one of the sides was unknown and it was on the bottom of the equation. Really, that's what breaks down. That's how it all breaks down. But sometimes we're not given the information to use tan. So we have other trig ratios that we'll talk about tomorrow. There's two other ones. But we solve them the same way. So really, the challenge here is just figuring out which trig ratio to use, and then you set up your equation and you solve it. And that's trig. That's it.